All right, good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Excited to talk about our class this fall. I think it's a very sound class in a lot of ways. A lot of guys that really, truly, in my heart, I believe that love football and to do this for the right reasons. They're a bunch of or a group of guys that take their academics very seriously, and I think will fit the fabric of what our program is. And they have a lot of similarities to the guys that are already in the room. So um, this thing is built from the local footprint first, working out inside out. Obviously the transfer portal has aided us in the past, and it does again with this class. We've added a couple guys from the junior college ranks. I think, but the main theme here is to address the needs that we are presented with here due to graduation, if we could, with some veteran guys. Let me preface that before we go into anything further there. Like, I think we have some really, really good young players in our program, and none of these veteran guys are going to be brought in here to disrupt the culture of what we're trying to do here. So I feel confident after watching these bowl practices, our young players in a really, really good spot, and these veteran guys that we have brought in from the transfer portal or the junior college ranks, I think will add immediate competition, and most of these guys will be here in January. So that's exciting, and I think it's a complete class. Address, like I said, a lot of the needs that we felt like we had to have, and it's a bigger class. I mean, last year I think our class was about half this size. So there's a lot of turnover in our program right now, and a lot of guys graduating, a lot of really good players. So we felt like we had to address some needs, and Coach Gasser and the recruiting office, I think, did a phenomenal job. I think our coaches did a great job in a short amount of time getting out on the road here after the MAC championship game and getting done what needed to get done. So excited about it and really looking forward to getting our hands on these guys. So that being said, I'll take your questions.
So it looks like this is going to be the highest rated class ever in the MAC. And I think 4 of the top 16 highest rated guys ever at Toledo out of high school. What kind of stands out talent-wise in this class to you?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of skill players in this class, and you can't ever have enough speed. I've never, watched a game and said, man, that team's too fast. So, I think that we play that way. We're losing a lot of veteran guys in the secondary this year. It's a team speed is always a priority in how we address recruiting. The offensive line, we lose some really good players on the offensive line. We've brought some really good high school guys in, and we've added a couple of veteran guys that I think will come in and challenge for playing time early, and we'll do a good job competing. And I think that the younger players, maybe we do have a really good player coming back at that position next year, and maybe these guys here are set up to really compete in year 2 to win a job. And I think that you're always trying to project, and this is more of a art than it is a science of building a roster in today's day and age. So confident right now where we sit, but ultimately at the end of the day, a lot of development and it still needs to happen.
Zamarian Lang is a guy that kind of jumps out when you look at the list of players. How did he kind of come about in your guys'?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that we've kind of followed all the way through his junior season, and he's had a fantastic senior season at Cardinal Mooney there. They're winning a state championship, and he's got a great body, a great frame, a bigger bodied receiver who can really run and drop his hips and get in and out of his breaks, and a guy that I think will flourish in our offense. I mean, he's one of those. We've had a lot of great receivers here, and we've had a lot of guys that have kind of come into that mold, and he's a dynamic playmaker that we're excited to have here for sure.
He's a 4-star guy according to some of those services. I mean, it's rare for Toledo to get 4 stars. When he tells you he's committing and when he signs, what's the reaction in the room?
Well, I mean, I think that it's not a sigh of relief. It's not all just pure joy. It's just, I think we've been down this path with this guy for so long that it's just the right thing to do for him. I mean, and he had a lot of big fish that were biting at his feet here in the last couple weeks, and especially the last 48 hours. So, yeah, we're excited to get him here. I know he's fired up to be here. I know he really, I think more than anything, had a really good vibe in a relationship with some of the receivers and some of the players on our team. And at the end of the day, I think like your coaches can do as good a job as they possibly can in recruiting. But the best recruiters you have are your players, and I think you really fit in with our guys. And if it starts like that, then usually the development is really, really good because the walls of insecurity are knocked down right from the start. So I think the kid's got a bright future, and we're excited to get our hands on him, like I said, to get to work with him, and I know our players are excited to have him.
Caleb Osborne was a guy who put up absurd stats in high school. How do you think he translates to your guys' offense? And just during the recruiting process, what do you guys like about him?
Well, I mean, Caleb's a great leader. I mean, he's probably done more with less than anybody on this list of guys that we signed. I mean, and that's, he's just has made so many plays, gained so many yards with his arm and his legs, and done such a good job of leading that team deep into the playoffs. And just the gravity and the amount of like impact that kid has on not only his football team, but if you go through the school and you talk to the people in the school, everybody's is a Caleb fan. So we are excited to get him here early. He'll be a January guy for us, and get here and get acclimated and get ready to start to learn the offense. And I know he's eager to do that, and we're certainly looking forward to having him here.
You talk about obviously the radius, like this 4-hour radius, and you obviously bring in a lot from Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana, but it also seems like there's a good chunk from Florida. How have you really built up those kind of like relationships and roots to be able to bring in a lot of kids from the Sunshine State?
Yeah, we've always had a really good pipeline to that state. We've always had a couple of coaches on staff that have recruited the state. Before I became the head coach, the Bay Area and all the way down from all across I-4 and down I-95. I mean, that was my area. So a lot of those relationships are still very strong with the high school coaches in that state. We have Coach Wiener here who coaches our quarterbacks, and he was a longtime high school coach in the state and a very successful one. And we have a lot of players that sit in these seats in this room here, in this team room, that have had a lot of success. And I think, everybody's trying to paint a picture of what success looks like for these young guys when they come out of high school. And I think we can, especially from that state, we can speak in testimony rather than theory, on the sense of this is what it looks like when you come here. Here are maybe the challenges that young people from that state or that area have had to hurdle or jump around to get to this point in time where they have a degree in their hand, they have a championship ring on their finger, and they're chasing their dreams to go play in the National Football League, and they're set up for success when the cleats come off. So I think we can tell the whole story because we've done it. We've done it at this place, and we have a lot of strong relationships in the state.
With the transfer portal becoming like an ever bigger conversation, how, from your standpoint as a coach, do those conversations differ when you talk to a high school kid versus talking to someone when you're trying to sell them and they've already been in the college game for a bit?
Well, recruiting is recruiting, and I think every student athlete, whether you're coming into your program or they're already in your program, I think they're, in my opinion, they're owed two things. They're owed an honest assessment of where we think they're at, and then I think it's our job as coaches to try to paint a clear picture of where we think it can go for them. Obviously, that conversation is a little bit different for a 17-year-old kid than it is a 21-year-old or 22-year-old man. So, but I think at the end of the day, both would love to see the latter of that, right? They'd like to see a clear path to what success looks like, and if we can match our vision with theirs, then that usually meshes into a pretty good fit. A pretty good fit, allows for authentic development, and authentic development with really talented players usually leads to really, really good things.
When it comes to intangibles when you're recruiting, what are some of the most important that you value when it comes to contributing to your program?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, you have to be a great human being. I mean, you have to understand the difference between right and wrong. And that sounds so simple, and it sounds such like a coach speak, but it's the truth. I mean, there's so many things that are presented to these young people in today's world, and they got to be on point when they leave this building, and they got to be on point when they wake up in the morning. I mean, team meetings here start every day at 7:15. So you got to be a self-starter. You got to be a guy that really loves the work that goes along with football. I think at times we find so many guys that love the things that go along with football, not necessarily the work that goes with it. So highly driven people that understand the importance and the value of free education. And at the end of the day, the guys that really just like to work.
And this is one last question for a story one of our journalists is doing. Coach Handel, what do you want for Christmas?
24 hours of a time where I can just sit and maybe watch a little football with my family, but yeah, a day off would be great. No, I mean, obviously this time of year is a crazy time, and prepping for a bowl game and dealing with signing day and that kind of thing. I think it'll be great for our team to get a little break here. Had our last practice this morning, and we'll get a chance to get a couple of days off here, catch our breath, and then get back and turn our focus toward Wyoming.
You mentioned this a little bit the other day, but I mean, do you feel like when the bowl game is this year enhanced your recruiting class because you were able to go visit some of these kids at the end of the cycle?
Well, I mean, time is critical, right? I mean, and I think, knowing what we went through last year, I thought our staff did a really good job of really getting a good head start and a jump on things back in January and February. And anticipating that if we had a really good season, which we did, it was going to get really challenging at the end again. And a lot of this work had to be done prior to our season starting. I'm a guy that, throughout the course of the season, the assistant coaches on Friday night, we're not out running around chasing high school kids all over the country. We're with our own team in the hotel, making sure we're prepped and ready to go win the game on Saturday. And sometimes that's a balancing act at times. So we put all our energy into that and trying to win the football games and having our coaches in on Friday nights and maybe not necessarily going out and seeing every game that possibly can. You got to make sure that the work is done prior to on the high school class, and you got to do a great job making sure you see kids in live evals, whatever way that may be, whether that's at a camp here or a camp at another institution or in the southern states that are fortunate enough to have spring practice. Like, you got to get your eyes on these guys, and you got to really get a good feel for what you're getting. So credit our staff for a lot of work and a lot of prep that led up to this. And signing day is just kind of like game day. It's the all the hard work and energy. You just reap the benefits of what that work is.
I think this is the 5th year of the transfer portal or something like that.
Seems like 100 years.
But I mean, is it somewhat easier as a coach to recruit? And I don't know, you've kind of got a hang of it now a little bit, if you know what I'm trying to ask.
Well, I would say that we're always going to supplement our roster from the portal. We're never going to save it. And if you have to save your roster from the portal in today's world, I mean, you're in trouble. The writing's probably on the wall for you as a coach. It's probably a tough time. So we want to stay ahead and keep developing our players. I mean, I think there's only 10 or 12 schools in the country that don't have to develop guys at an elite level because they can just recycle 5 stars. Everybody else is kind of in the same boat, and we're one of those. And we take great pride in our development. You walk out in that hallway out there, you see all the guys in the NFL wall there. We didn't win a lot of elite recruiting battles to get those guys here. I mean, some of those guys had 1, maybe 2, maybe no other offers at the time, and came and maximized their potential. So, we put a lot of emphasis into development. If a guy's early in his career and he's in the transfer portal and we feel like he's a fit and he fits a need, and he's willing to develop at a high level, then he can ingrain himself in the culture of our locker room and do a good job of understanding what those pillars of success look like. We'll gladly take them and we'll pour our heart and energy into him, just like we would a guy coming out of high school. And the Dallas Gants of the world, the Judge Culpeppers of the world, like, these guys have come here and they've been ultra successful. And then you turn behind those guys, there's Max and Hook and Nate Bauer and Quinyon Mitchell, who are all conference players as well, and they're homegrown that have come here out of high school. So I think it's a unique balance. It's an interesting mix. And you really got to do a good job working to what really fits your institution and what fits your locker room.
Do you anticipate adding a few more guys between now and February?
I don't know. I think so. I mean, we may be a couple more spots there and see where what our team looks like and what our current roster looks like after the bowl game. But I felt like we addressed some needs. I feel really good about our young players in our program and in the climb that they're on. But I think from now until August, it's a different time. You have so many different ways that you can again supplement your roster.
This was Brian Gasser's first signing day in this role. Just what do you think of the job he did in the fall and into now?
Incredible, super organized, very detailed. Very dialed into what it comes to making sure that we're compliant in everything that we do, from what our coaches are doing to how official visits are handled, to how unofficial visits are handled. I mean, we get a lot of traction and a lot of people that just show up on campus here because we're accessible. So there's we don't have the department that's built like some of those top 15 places. So he's got to wear a lot of hats, and my hat's off to him for what the job he's been able to do to put together a phenomenal class.
And then, like, the 48 hours, 24 hours, even today, how kind of anxious are you in those final days leading up to Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I think kind of what's going on. You don't anticipate surprises. You do the work up until that point in time to make sure there aren't any of those. Some kids change their mind, some kids don't. That happens from time to time, but you do a good job prepping and doing everything that you need to do. So today works itself out. I scheduled for our team meeting today at 8. I knew signing day you're allowed to sign at 7, but our team meeting today was at 8 and our staff meeting was at 7:30. So I told myself I wasn't gonna get caught up in all the drama. This morning we were gonna go hit the practice field and have a really good practice for our last one before we take a little break here to go see Santa Claus. But I don't. Maybe I was more anxious and more nervous when I was an assistant coach than I am the head coach.